Good evening, everybody. Well, welcome. It's lovely to see you all here for the QLDC Council Mayoral Candidate evening. Very, very warm welcome here, and thank you very much for attending. Lovely to see so many people here. My name's Richie Heap. I'm going to be a facilitator, that's what we're called. And this is the lovely Tracey Roxburgh, as you know, the famous Tracey. And we're just going to facilitate an evening. Lovely to see so many people. What do you think?
So great. Thank you all very much for coming. I know better than you might understand how hard it is to find time at the moment to be at something like this, but it is amazing to see so many people so engaged in the local body elections this year.
Yeah, and of course a big thank you to the Queenstown Business Chamber of Commerce and Hospitality New Zealand to make this evening possible. Very good.
And also just want to remind everybody, keep a smile, especially you guys, keep a smile on the dial. There's some cameras down the back there and we are being live streamed this evening, so welcome to everybody on the internet. It's lovely to have you with us as well.
That is correct. There's people in Gore online at the moment, so it's nice to have them here with us this evening. Now, just a few quick housekeeping notes if you've just joined us. Fire exits, make your way orderly out the door. We will have people that open it for you, and we will meet on the cricket field. Now, the toilets are out the back and to the left, through the back door there if you need them, and if there's an earthquake, you need to stop and get under your chairs. We talked about this before, it's a bit strange. There are 3 tables over there which everyone can fight over, so hopefully there's not an earthquake. I have to say, Trace, that of all the mayoral races that I can remember, this is the talk of the town. It's one of the, it's hot topic in town. What are you seeing?
Well, it's like the only topic in town, actually. I had to write a little think piece for the Otago Daily Times this week, and I was asked what the biggest issue was facing the district, and obviously after the last 2.5 years, they're all big issues, aren't they? It feels a little bit like we've been in a washing machine stuck on the spin cycle. But I do believe actually that this election right now for us as a community is the most critical thing facing us for the next 3 years, bar none.
Totally. So a little bit about what's going to happen this evening is that now we have received questions, loads of questions, and they've come from the general public, the Chamber of Commerce, and of course through Hospitality New Zealand. So these guys have no idea what's going to come at them. Okay, so that's how it's going to be today. So there's no scripting for you guys. With a bit of luck, it may be a bit awkward as well, because that's always a little bit more fun, isn't it? So we're going to have a variety of questions that you, the general public, have put out there. We've rounded them. There's a lot of questions there that were sort of the same, so we've sort of made them. There was one question that says, if you were stuck on an island, what would you take with you? I don't think we'll use that because that was a bit weird. But that's what we get. And that's what shows, the people out there are really keen to see what's going to be happening. So thank you for the mayoral candidates. Some of you, this is the first time you've seen all 6 of them lined up there. Okay, so thank you, Al, Glenn, and we've got John, Daniel, Nita, and Olivia. So thank you guys for being here. Right, so the first way, we're just going to roll into it. How does that sound? So we're going to have a quick introduction, 2-minute introduction. I'll just let you know, I'm going to be a little bit niggly on time. Okay, and if you beat around the question, I'm just going to say that's weak. Okay, because some of the candidates, and you ask a question, you end up over here. We've got small time frames, so let's just get to the point. So 2 minutes per person. It sounds about long enough, I reckon, because you've probably heard a lot from these people already. So let's start off with Al. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your leadership style and what motivates you to stand for Mayor, sir.
Yes, I'm Alistair Angus. Is this working? Welcome tonight. Hori mai, had rapara kamarawa. So he's on Zoom watching in here. I'm standing because I am vehemently against the 3 waters, and we really need to just stop that. I've paid for it for 40 odd years, and I don't want it stolen off me. Is there anybody else here that is against the 3 waters takeover? Put your hand up.
So what's your vision, Al, for Queenstown? We're just doing an introduction here. We'll come back. We'll come back to it.
I didn't interrupt you.
Yeah, okay. Well, I said to the start I will interrupt you, just by the way. So just a bit of an introduction about yourself, and then we'll come back to those points and we can get the hands in the air. Okay, Glenn, tell us a little about what's your vision Sir, for Queenstown. Why are you running? Glenn, yeah.
Okay, so hi, I'm Glenn Lewis and I'm running to be your mayor. So just a quick intro, I'm 44 years of age, I've got 2 young boys, both go to local schools, Wakatipu High and Remarkables Primary. So I'm deeply involved with this community. I've spent 8 years as a junior rugby coach, I was chair of the Franklin Community Association, I'm a volunteer board member and I've been your councillor for the last 3 years. And professionally, I'm a structural engineer. So my vision. So COVID's been tough on all of us. The first thing I want to really do is connect back with the community. Connect back with the community. I think we've been through the washing machine, as Tracey said, and that's one of the big things I want to do. 2, climate change. It is upon us, we have to face it, and in this next 3 years it has to be dealt, we must put some actions in place and reduce our emissions. 3, social infrastructure. For the last 3 years we've been looking at the hard infrastructure with sicker cones all lying over the road. We've got to start looking at social infrastructure, those community connections, because one thing COVID did teach us was we have a very strong community. It was brought together by COVID. We don't want to lose that. We need to build on that. And the last thing, I want to be community-led, not consultant-led. The last 3 years have been quite frustrating for me, sitting around a table being told what to do by an external consultant out of Auckland. So I'm proven, I'm practical, and I've got experience because I've been your councillor for the last 3 years. We've got a tsunami of reform coming our way, and I've got the attributes to lead you for the next 3 years. Thank you.
And you're under 2 minutes. Legend. Thank you, Glenn. John, so what's your vision for Queenstown and what motivates you to stand for mayor?
Hi everyone, this is much better than last night at the high school, at my old high school, although in a different place, where I said it was good to see so many familiar eyes. At least here we can see everyone's faces, which is great. So we're moving on from that phase of the COVID response. I was born in Queenstown back in 1964, and to a family that was involved in some quite interesting tourism development at that stage. So I grew up here, went to school here, and then we moved to Glenorchy. So I've had experience in the bigger community in the district and some of the smaller ones too. I've got a real affinity with the Wanaka side of the hill as well. It's a different place, but we need to make sure that it's much better included in what we do in the future. It hasn't been as well, particularly over the last few terms. Queenstown Lakes, particularly the council, is facing a series of crises. I do crises. I do emergency management as a day job and often well into the night. We've got the crisis of trust, a lack of trust from the community and the council. We need to rebuild that by reaching out to communities to bring leaders of community groups, businesses, non-government organisations, bring them into the mix and use that leadership so that we have a joined-up approach to the future for our communities and for our economy. We've got the crisis of COVID and moving from response into recovery. There is no plan yet within QLDC for recovery from COVID. In the first 30 days that I'm there, if I'm lucky to be elected by you, we will have a COVID recovery plan, and it will look at all components of our economy and our communities to make sure that we have an approach over the next few years to make the most out of this opportunity that we have and the struggles that so many of us here have had to go through. We need to do that better, and we need to do that with the government, and if there's a change of government, we need to work with the new government to make the most of that as well. We've got a financial crisis. 2025, the borrowing cap for council is going to be hit with the leaky building claim coming in next year, another $200 million. We need to make some hard decisions together over the next few years.
Awesome. So thank you for that, John. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to Daniel Shand, sir.
Thanks.
So tell us a bit about yourself, sir, and your leadership style.
My name is Daniel Shand. I've noticed quite often politicians don't do the things they say they're going to do once elected. In fact, they often end up doing the opposite. I thought I'd run to see if I could try to do things differently this time. This is the third election I've run in, and I have only really one policy, and that's to listen to the public I believe the primary duty of an elected representative is to find out where the people of their electorate stand on a specific issue and then represent the majority's views as often as possible to government, both central government and local government. A representative's job is to represent the public's views, not their own personal views. They are public employees, not leaders. I'd like to give a quote. It's by a government official who lived in China 400 BC. His name was Lao Tzu. The quote goes, "When a wise leader governs the people are hardly aware he exists. He is not seen. A wise leader leads from behind. The next best is a leader that is loved by the people. The next after that is one who is feared. The worst one is one who is despised. If you do not trust the people, you will make them untrustworthy. A wise leader does not talk, he acts. And when his work is done, the people say, 'Amazing, we did it all by ourselves.' If only we could find leaders like this, if there were any here tonight." Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Well done, Daniel. Thank you. All right, next up, Nita. Tell us a bit about yourself and how would your standing for Mayor shape the priorities in your first term?
Kia ora, my name is Nita and I'm standing for both Mayor and Councillor for QLDC. Now the reason I put my name in for two positions is because I know how important it is to have a community voice on the council table. So I stand here as a parent, a business owner and a passionate community member. I've worked at QLDC and many other councils in different roles and in different departments. My reason for standing is because I believe the community and our businesses need to be at the center of our decision-making process to protect the integrity of our environment. I'm entirely committed to accountability and transparency for public trust. I want council to back community-based investments. I mean, look at Wanaka Waste Busters. It's an excellent example of a community-led, successful business model. So I want to see these kind of aspirations for our people, for our region, for our future generation, through education, sports, business innovation, culture, social, and giving grants and business opportunities. I want us to incentivize talent to want to live here, work here, invest here, and love this place like most of us do. Queenstown is my home. This is my happy place, and I know that sentiment is a norm in our vibrant, diverse place. So I would like for all of us to be more community-oriented, that council starts encouraging and empowering our community so that we've got the best ideas coming from here. Economic diversification will be a consequence of a strong community and a functional infrastructure. People will want to invest in a society that has a functional infrastructure, but also a diverse, vibrant, thriving community. Living in this community has been both my honor and my pride. And just serving this community will definitely be a big honor for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Niti. Well done. Okay, last but not least, Olivia, tell us a bit about yourself and what's your vision for Queenstown? 2 minutes.
Good evening. Great to see so many people engaged in local politics. Tracey's right. This election is very, very important. A bit about me. I'm a former lawyer. I'm the current CEO of Startup Queenstown Lakes. I'm on leave while I'm on the campaign trail. I've lived here for 10 years. I've had 2 kids here. I got married here. Why am I running? It's for the kids. I'm concerned about their future. Our region is on a knife's edge. Tonight, I want to talk about you. I'm really concerned about the community. Our transportation, our housing, our health system, it's broken. More of the same is not going to fix it. We need big thinking and even bigger action, and that is what's going to bring about real change. Did you know that only 2% of the 400 people I surveyed want more tourism over 2019 levels? Put your hand up if you want more tourism over 2019 2019 levels. See? Our communities are not being served. This is my vision. Our kids can thrive in the region where they grow up and they get the 250k tech jobs that are here already. I want to increase this. When I'm elected, my first priority is an economic development agency. Why? Because we need to attract the hundreds of millions of dollars that's out there. How do I know this? Because I've done it already. Last year, I was instrumental in putting together a $280 million deal for a movie studio. This is going to create thousands of jobs and a film school for our region, and it's happening. We need to decide the future of our region. We haven't just risked killing the golden goose. The golden goose, it's cooked. It's done. We need to move forward in a sustainable, smart way.
Well, thank you, Olivia, for that. Awesome. Well, big round of applause for our council candidates. A very good lineup. Well, Tracey, what should we roll into now?
Right, as you will be aware, one of these 6 people will be our mayor for the next 3 years come next month. So, you've got 30 seconds. Oh, we've got to think fast and talk faster. I'm just going to start this off, Glyn. Leadership. Please give specific detail of your leadership experience, not style, and how many people you've had to lead in the past.
Started my professional career as an officer in the Air Force, so obviously I have leadership skills there. Went through a leadership training, led probably up to 20 grizzled 20-year-old military veterans. As an engineer in a safety critical place in the resource sector in BHP, I led teams in a very resource labour constrained environment, safety critical, and I tell you now that these men were either looking for a change in their lifestyle or I did actually have reformed peoples. Thank you.
Sit down.
Whoa! Oh, yeah, that was a random noise, wasn't it?
I don't, it came out.
Where did that come from? Well, that might be our hooter. That could be our hooter, ladies and gentlemen, for the 30 second is up.
I could trademark that, couldn't I? Nita, I'm going to ask you the same question. Specific detail of your leadership experience, not style. How many people have you had to lead in the past? Go.
So I was the subject matter expert at Auckland City Council. I had about 10 people that I was leading. And that was more about having the right procedures for our district plan breaches, our bylaw breaches. Same thing with Lakes Environmental, where I was compliance team leader, and I had about 12 people that I was leading in terms of being the face for the council. My biggest leadership skill would be as a business owner.
You're done.
Woo! Oh, it's interesting, isn't it? We tried to get some noises on the phone, but it didn't work, so that's what we stuck. Can you make the noise for me for the next one?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to fire this one at you, Olivia. What voluntary work have you undertaken within the community, clubs, societies, charitable causes? 30 seconds.
Oh, only 30 seconds. So my husband and I, we founded NRG, which is Young Rotary Group. We've raised tens of thousands of dollars for the community, most recently going to the Shot Over Country skateboard ramp. There's been clubs open through different cities now as a result of us founding that. And then also some of you have probably read about my passion project, which is with Gloriavale. So I helped a young woman who I met when she was 16 actually escape the commune, and I've helped her resettle in society, and that is something very dear to my heart. Thank you.
Good job, Olivia.
Well
right on
done.
30 seconds.
Good work. Al, I'm going to fire this one at you, sir. The same thing. What voluntary work have you undertaken within the community, clubs, societies, charitable causes, sir?
I don't do charity, I do humanity. And I've just got this term charity wash goes in my head, you know. A lot of people do it for the reflected, adoration. I don't like it. So I just stay right out of that argument. Thanks. I think it removes the dignity from the people that are getting it. Also, Olivia was allowed to poll the audiences and you stopped me, so...
You can poll,
2 seconds, Al.
You can poll if you want.
Oh.
That's why I want a better council, because you've got a guy like you at the top.
We appreciate you coming along tonight. Right, so next question we're going to fire at you, John, same thing. Voluntary work you have undertaken within community clubs or society charitable causes.
I've been a coach of quite a few of the sports clubs that my kids were involved in, particularly football when we were living in Christchurch. For the last 25 years or so, though, I've been involved with the Red Cross, assisting in developing emergency management capabilities around the Pacific. And I act as a mentor for managers in local government, actually, around Australia and New Zealand in crisis management and risk management.
5 seconds to spare. Good work, John. Okie doke. Next question. I'll throw this one at Olivia to start with. If you were to become mayor, do you have any major conflicts of interest, perceived or real? What would they be and how would you deal with them?
Well, I think there's pretty clear perceived conflict that you guys keep writing about. So you would have heard about my father-in-law. He used to be a property developer 20 years ago. I was 17 when he built a leaky building. Nothing to do with me, so I want to clear that up. But I'm really passionate about transparency, and if there's any whiff of any kind of conflict, I'll be out of the room. And I'm a trained lawyer, so I can identify conflict, and that applies to the whole council. I want to have a list on every single meeting agenda of all conflicts. Thank you.
Thanks, Olivia. Nita, can I put the same question to you, please?
Can I have a go?
No. Nita?
So no, I don't have conflicts of interest. I stand here completely as a vested community member. Do I believe that when you've got any kind of issue, if you're open and transparent about it, I think we all want that. And so, yeah, no, I don't have any conflicts of interest going into this role.
Thank you, Nita. Now, Daniel, you can have a go. If you were to become mayor, do you have any major conflicts of interest, perceived or real? What would they be and how would you deal with them?
I have no conflicts of interest, and I'd like to go back to the question about leadership. I have 30 years experience as a member of the public, so I know what it's like not to be led. Thanks.
I might do just one more if you wouldn't mind on that one. John, can I ask you the same question? Major conflict of interest, perceived or real? What are they? How would you deal with them?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any actual conflicts of interest, but there's one that people do talk about, the secret of the century that I ran for Labor back in 2020. I have no association with the Labor Party now, and I have been a member of the National Party Queenstown branch in the past. Good to have Hamish here. I had a good chat with Joseph Mooney a few days ago, and I'm looking forward to working with him to serve our communities in the future.
Very good. Okay, for you, Glyn, from your knowledge of the council processes, if the mayor, for example, had a major conflict of interest, how would that be handled?
So, right, the role of the mayor is to lead, to develop the annual plan, the district plan, the annual plan, the long-term plan, the policies and the budgets. We have a very conflicted candidate here that will not be able to participate in 75% of those things. Now, from my point of view, that is untenable. That candidate cannot
Bing bong.
discharge her duties as a mayor.
Bing bong.
Okay, John, I'll follow that straight back at you, sir, as well. From your knowledge of the council processes, as you know, if the mayor, for example, had a major conflict of interest, how would that be handled?
So the chief executive, and it's interesting, some of the roles that some of the issues we have, there may be conflicts of interest that the chief executive could have and other senior executives, as we've seen over the last few years. So we need to have a very open approach, a much more open approach than we have had in the past. There are perceived conflicts of interest around this whole leaky building syndrome, and I'm not just talking about any candidate in particular. We need to be very careful about that. There are direct potential conflicts of interest from people who were directors of companies involved, and we need to be able to look into those openly. I was looking forward to the next one. Thank you. Nice.
I'm having quite a bit of fun with my noises. Right, I think, is that us done in that section, Richie? Time to move on?
I reckon we move on to tourism and hospitality.
Have at it. Right. There's a strong message from government. The way we have delivered the visitor experience, the impact on our communities must change. In 1 minute, John, we'll start with you on this. What do you see as the priorities for change for local operators?
Tourism is a key part of our economy and will be into the future, absolutely. It's a key part of what my family does and has done in the past. And my wife and I are developing an off-grid eco-lodge just south of here in Southland, where it's a little bit easier to get things done. I want to change that here. Part of my plan is to actually not talk about managing the consequences of over mass tourism, but managing tourism itself, so that in future we won't have as many beds being built into the future. We won't be relying so much on Airbnb in our communities, which will make the existing tourism economy more stable and more sustainable into the future. We need to build on what we've got without that steep trajectory we had in the past. We need to flatten that out and come up with a more sustainable approach for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Didn't get to use my noise then. You will be. Nita, can I ask you the same question? What are the priorities for change for local operators as you see them?
So I've got businesses that are built around tourism. No one in tourism disagrees that what we need is better tourism management. Now, I know that consciously we all are trying to do that in terms of, we do want our tourists, our visitors to have that excellent Queenstown Lakes experience. Building an airport and extending the airport is not the way to do it. That actually sends the wrong message. We've got enough tourists, we've got enough integrity in the tourism industry. What we want is for the council to give us direction on how we are going to manage it. And we get conflicting information from the council when they extend the airport, but at the same time they say they don't want mass tourism.
Thank you, Nita. And Daniel, I'll finish that question with you, please. What are your priorities for change for local operators?
I'm not offering any answers on that because I'm not equipped to. I'm offering accurate representation to the public. That's what I'm offering. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you for that. So, Olivia, now if you were Mayor, how would Council work differently to support local operators?
So my background is in startups. I have been trained in the agile method. Now, every single company in town has had to get back to basics and be lean, mean and agile, right? We've all had to fight really hard. Why does council not have to do the same? I want to get real efficiencies in council, right? Get rid of the bloated budgets, get rid of the $288 million on consultants between 2016 and 19, sorry. Unbelievable, $288 million. We need to trim the fat, we need to get back to basics and be agile as a council. It's our money they're spending like it's going out of fashion. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. Glenn, same question coming at you, sir. Now, if you were the Mayor, what would Council work differently, or how would Council work differently to support local operators?
So we would actually start looking at connecting workers to local operators because it is the number one issue facing operators at this point in time. We have an economic development unit within Council working on this right now. So the efficiencies we need to gain is getting those people into jobs that are desperately needed for the operators here.
Okay, what are your views on alternatives to rates funding to support the local community? Olivia, can I start with you, please?
Right, we need to get smart, and this is what I was talking about with the economic diversification, right? This word keeps getting thrown around by a lot of people, but I'm the only one who's actually working in the economic development with QLDC at the moment. So I understand, I'm already doing the work. So there's a lot of funding models that we could be doing. This is attracting funds. I want to raise a fund so that it can fund an economic development agency. I want to get a build-to-rent model. So this provides worker accommodation, it's very investable. Superannuation funds would line up to get a part of it. So we are leaving money on the table. We need to do better with getting investment into our region. Thank you.
Thank you. Glenn, your views on alternatives to rates funding?
So alternatives to rates funding, we have to revisit the bed levy on tourists because they have to pay their fair share in infrastructure provision. So once we get the bed tax, which we have just reinitiated to do, because it is a big component of our 2024 long-term plan going forward, as well as it is a key component of our destination management plan that we're developing.
Okay, John, this for you. Tourism and hospitality are visibly in a workforce crisis. Low-wage workers need to make the beds and pour pints. As Mayor, how would you support our town with our specialty immigration needs?
I build on the relationships that I have with senior ministers in the current government and senior MPs in the opposition to be able to represent the interests of our communities more effectively in government in a way that's constructive, that comes up with solutions rather than coming up with problems all too often. We need to be constructive in our approach. The biggest problem, though, I think at the moment, and I've been there myself working in the local tourism sector, is affordable worker housing and worker housing in general. We need to, one of the first things I'll do in the first 30 days, again, if I'm elected as Mayor, will be to establish an integrated task force of those involved, those who need workers and those who have currently space available in their empty hospitality facilities to be able to fill those gaps now, and then we need to come up with a medium and long-term plan as well to solve it into the future. We can solve much of this together. We have the resources and the leadership in our communities.
Thanks for that, John. I'll fire that to you, Nita, as well. How does that sound? Tourism and hospitality, workforce crisis, low wage. What are you going to do to support?
So the issues that we have in Queenstown are no different than what we see globally or nationally. What I would have liked for Council to probably advocate is talking about our issues for staffing and our immigration settings quite openly, so that that would actually help all businesses. So Queenstown has been quite unique, but we've always had staffing issues and housing issues here. A proactive council would have formulated something where each business is not spending about $3,000 going to their lawyers, getting the same information. And so what I would like to look at is for council to advocate certain things that are a commonality towards all the businesses, and be our forefront in talking about those kind of things.
Thank you, Nita. Well, Tracey, housing and infrastructure. That's a big topic, isn't it?
Very topical, Richie.
Very topical. So the district faces challenges in meeting residents' demands for healthy, affordable and accessible housing and regular, reliable transport alternatives to cars. Now, 1 minute per speaker. I reckon we're going to start off with you, Daniel. Sir, what is your understanding of the key housing and infrastructure challenges in the district?
I would start in order of need, so I would put coin-operated showers in all the Freedom camping sites so that all the people living in their cars could have access to showers. That'll be at my beginning. And a lot of the people that live in Queenstown can't afford people working in Queenstown can't afford to live in Queenstown, which is pretty bonkers. I'd get onto that secondly with cheaper housing. We might even potentially need to start building council houses. I think it is probably starting to arrive at that sort of situation. Thank you.
Well done, thank you. And Nita, I'll pose the same thing to you. What's your understanding of the key housing and infrastructure challenges in the district?
So I've worked at the council and I worked as, in my business. What I have seen is that the council takes the path of least resistance. So we've got the central government speeding up our housing, but our infrastructure hasn't kept up with it. So we're still going to struggle. As the council, I understand your role would be to actually liaise well within the NZTA, the central government, and not have these piecemeal kind of solutions to our problems. And I think that's where the issues are.
Thank you. So Daniel, another one for you there, sir. What role or roles do you consider the Mayor could play in addressing these challenges?
What challenges?
The infrastructure challenges.
The infrastructure challenges.
Yep. Key housing.
I would start, if we're going to talk about infrastructure, I'd probably talk about democratic infrastructure. So setting up a system where the representatives have access to the wants of the public. So like a better questionnaire polling system, and then they could just function as representatives directly.
Thank you. And Nita, back to you again. What roles do you consider the Mayor could play in addressing these challenges? Obviously, they're key housing and infrastructure.
So the Mayor has got a big platform, right? So they get to meet ministers, they get to talk to the central government. The Mayor must have their finger on their pulse about the issues that we have within our community. That is our condensed voice. If our mayors can formulate what the community is going through, I think we probably can achieve quite a lot through our central government and the agencies that invest and have funding in our region.
I'm up. Right, there's more housing supply than ever, but we're still in a housing shortfall. There are thoughts Airbnbs are taking out the housing supply. What are your thoughts? What else can be done for housing for our district? John, can I start with you, please?
Thank you. Yeah, I already started that question earlier. The draft policy change that Council adopted just recently in the inclusionary zoning approach has got a lot of merit. The objectives of it and principles I think we'd all agree with, but the way it's currently written, where even affordable homes would be hit with a levy, needs to be adjusted, but that's because it's a draft policy and it will change over time. So we need to make sure that that's fit for purpose. It will make a big difference. We need to give more support to the Housing Trust to do what it does. I was just delivering pamphlets in the Lynch block today, a great day to be out doing that. That place needs to be turned into, very quickly, into affordable housing, hand it to the Housing Trust, get that happening quickly. But we need to get things happening even quicker in public-private partnerships to get housing available in our communities now at a scale and in a height that is consistent with the Alpine community you have, not some of the suggestions that have been bounced around the community recently. There's a lot of opportunity. Love it, thank you.
There it is again.
Glenn, can I ask you the same question, please? What are your thoughts on the housing shortfall, Airbnbs taking out the housing supply, and what else can be done?
So a little bit the same as what John was saying, is leading and promoting what the Housing Trust is doing, and also actually promoting that inclusionary zoning pathway. Now that will provide the most vulnerable 800 families a pathway to get onto the property ladder, but it also provides them security, and it also provides this district with a workforce. They're the ones that'll cut your hair, they're the ones that'll make your coffee, they're the ones that actually clean the rooms. So these are the people we should be concentrating on. So the inclusionary zoning, that's what it's aimed for, and I'm very proud to have voted that one in.
Anything on Airbnb? Any thoughts on that?
So Airbnb, the council tried 2018 to regulate it a lot stronger than it is now. The commissioners in the Environment Court turned that down. I am happy for Airbnb to be within a central CBD, because that is where you need the workers. You want the workers next to the work, and I'm happy for a struggling family with children to have a little loft so they can help pay off their mortgage.
I'm just a bit confused about the struggling family in the loft when Airbnb is mostly, obviously, as you say, centrally located, but for the tourists coming in to use it. So, you know, apparently there's a lot of houses that are advocate for that are just Airbnb.
We don't have a housing shortage, we have houses being used for the wrong purposes. We need to use the Rating Act and the District Plan to move away from reliance on Airbnb and others. There's still there's room, and Glenn's right, there's room for some of that, but not to the extent that we have now. Other cities around the world are doing it, we can do it too, but we can only do it if you support us when property owners and developers take the council on. So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, I'm just going to ask Olivia your thoughts on that last one, please. I'll just repeat the question because we got a wee bit off topic there. Thoughts that Airbnbs are taking out the housing supply. What else can be done for a housing shortfall?
I don't just have thoughts on it, I know for a fact that it is taking up the supply. So there's a website called Airbnb DNA, and it shows that just downtown there's 1,760 Airbnbs. So if you do the maths on that, John's right, we don't have a housing shortage, we've got a housing supply issue. I've got no problem with it being in the commercial zones. I've got no problem if it's mums and dads that have a unit attached to their house, they need it to pay their mortgage, right? But I think it's a cop-out that council's saying, we can't do anything. That is rubbish. There is more than enough tools that the council can use to regulate Airbnb properly. So this needs to be done. My number one priority is focusing on housing. You know why this is my number one priority? Because I have asked more than 1,000 people, what is the number one priority? And it keeps coming back to housing. So I will prioritise that.
How would you regulate Airbnb? Just a quick question there for you, just while you're there.
Right, so it's visitor accommodation, right? So there's ways of enforcing it. You can have limits, you can have cap it in 30 days, you can have cap it in 90 days. I would lobby the government because central government...
That's already in place, the 90 days, 180 and 360.
Enforcing it. You can actually get other countries, they have it so that Airbnb actually caps out certain properties after a certain number of days. We don't have this here and it's something we can do. That's what I'd do.
Okay. Olivia, this one's for you. So you say you've been a long-term advocate for build to rent. You say you've spoken to CEOs of large tourism companies who have absolutely backed your idea.
Yes.
Yep. How long have you been an advocate? Who have you spoken to and how do you intend to deliver it? 1 minute.
So I've spoken to the CEO of Real NZ, I've spoken to the CEO of NZ Ski. I've asked them, why aren't you providing worker accommodation? I think that some of the biggest operators in town, like Skyline, why aren't you providing worker accommodation? They need to be picking up the burden, and they're not. So it's costing our normal businesses are suffering because these big, huge titans are taking up a huge amount of rentals. So they need to pick it up, and I will be lobbying for that.
How would you deliver that?
Yeah, so I've already spoken about the build-to-rent model, right? So I first heard this term from my cousin who's working for Kāinga Ora about 5 years ago. So I've been reading about it, researching it, and it makes sense. It works overseas. It's a really good model, and we need to get smarter, and this is the way we can deliver it.
How are you going to deliver it? How are you going to deliver this?
I've already spoken about how I'm going to deliver it, right? So you can get a partnership, superannuation funds, buy into it, and I've spoken to the CEOs and they said that they will underwrite X number of rooms for X number of years. It's a very investable idea. We need to do it.
Thank you.
We're doing it with Lakeview.
Well, you do raise a good point there. You are doing that with Lakeview. That is what that whole area is about. Did you want to elaborate on that very quickly in a nice way?
So we're going to produce 280 units. 280 units. 15 to 10% will actually go to the Housing Trust. So there is the model there. It will take some time because there's some commercial realities behind it.
Okie dokie, moving on to my favourite.
I'd love to have a
sure,
little
John,
bit on
go for
it.
it.
Thank you. I was reading my dad's diaries recently. He moved here in 1958. There's been a housing crisis since then. It was very interesting reading. I'll write about it one day. But there are tools available that we can use rating to encourage developers and property owners to do the right thing, to shift the use to those that are in the interests of the community and discourage people from using them for Airbnb, etc. We don't have to just use the district plan. We can also work with the government. The biggest reason why employers are not keen to provide staff accommodation is because they pay fringe benefit tax on it, and it's a killer. We need to work with the government to come up with an approach that means we go back to some extent where we were about 30 years ago, where just about every big employer in town had staff accommodation because it was economically viable for them to do so. There's
Awesome.
things we can do.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Tracy, got another one there?
Yeah, so this is my favourite subject. It's kind of the movable installation around the Queenstown CBD, also known as road cones. Some call it a sign of progress. What further progress and investment in our roading and infrastructure do you see needed for the future? Glenn, can we start with you?
It's actually investing in the soft infrastructure, so it's the traffic demand management, which we've just started investing in now. So that's actually not putting a large capital investment in actually trying to, and instead of doing that, actually looking at different ways to aid different ways of travelling and looking at peak and try and take the peak off and trying to look at working from home, travelling to work at different times, And probably the main infrastructure right at the beginning, right at the priority, is putting some damn car parking in at Stanley Street, which, if I'm elected mayor, is going to start to happen probably before Christmas.
How?
Sorry?
How?
Well, we've already started looking at relocating the Arts Centre, and we're in the process of actually putting in the resource consent for that area, and the actual design process has actually started.
And you think consent will be through by Christmas?
No, the actual start of construction.
Thank you. Nita, I'll ask you the same question, please. What further progress and investment in our roading and infrastructure do you see needed for the future?
So I find the word further actually a loaded question because we haven't actually had any information from the council about what the roadworks are. So I read a post from council on Facebook recently where it said Shortfall Street was going to get closed because there was going to be work. It gave a date about when it's starting, but it had nothing else on it. What kind of work was going to happen, how long it was going to take. So in terms of a business or people that are living there, we literally are at a guess game. So I've got kids who are at school. Well, my son's in university, but there used to be a time when I used to leave about 15 minutes early to drop him off to school. And now I leave my house about 45 minutes from home, and I carry work with me in the car. Because if I can get car park outside the school, I can actually do some work. So what I would like for council to do is to actually inform what kind of work is going to happen and what the community needs to anticipate.
It's quite high-pitched, wasn't it? Sorry about that.
Resounding around the room, that, wasn't it? Very good for you.
Daniel, can I ask you that one as well, just to wrap up on this topic? What further progress and investment in our roading and infrastructure is needed for the future?
Imagine if the council sent out questionnaires asking you important questions about your future and what you wanted in it, and then they took that information and used it. I think we should look at that. I mean, we should start doing these sorts of things and actually involving the public in the decision-making process, and get away from this whole idea of leadership, and just actually function as a direct representative democracy where the leaders are just facilitators to the wishes of the public.
I'd love to talk to that if I could.
I think we can allow it. Can we allow it?
Oh, 30 seconds.
Cool, thank you. I'd like to see the stage one of the arterial route finished so we can get public transport with the new electric buses that the Regional Council has promised that we will have by 2025, funded by the government, into central Queenstown, connecting it up in a clean way. But I would like to also, in that first 30 days, start a review of that project so that we retain the memorial centre where it is and shift the project further to the east so that we make room for what we can make better use of that site, including some car parking, and have a multi-use centre there for the community and for conferences.
Thank you, John. Next topic, Tracey, what have we got? Economic development.
You're up, Richie.
Okay. There's been much made of the need for the district's economy to diversify, to improve its resilience and enhance residents' quality of life. Now, 1 minute each, team. We're going to start off with you, Olivia, down the end. What do you see as the role of the Mayor in leading and supporting economic development?
It is without a doubt the most important issue that our region is facing long term, right? We're a one-trick pony at the moment. Now, I am not anti-tourism by any measure, but we need to be adding a few more strings to the bow, right? It's happening already with the movie project. There's some other industries coming to town. I work with hundreds of founders who are working on great ideas, but we need to be doing more of this. The 10-year plan, it's got 3 paragraphs about economic development. Its funding has been $400,000 a year, which is nothing when you compare it to other regions.
Just a quick one, Olivia, I'm just a little bit confused.
Sure.
I might have read the wrong question. What do you see as the role of the Mayor in leading and supporting economic development?
I'm getting to that.
Okay, well,
Getting to that.
let's get to it quickly, eh?
Council has to play a pivotal role, and we need to make the decision of getting an EDA out of council. It is not currently working. We've got an EDU unit with 2.5 staff. It's pitiful. We're leaving money on the table. Council needs to be bold, get an EDA and start getting great investment into our region.
Okay, John. What do you see as the role of the Mayor in leading and supporting economic development?
Thanks for the reminder. Yeah, stick to the question. So the role of the Mayor, I think, is going to be critical in the next at least two terms of council, in making sure that we focus on what we need to do. And that is shifting the focus of the council itself, which for at least the last 2 terms has been focused on encouraging mass tourism. We don't want to do that. We need to change the culture within the organisation with a really good team of councillors to make that happen. Queenstown Lakes had the fastest growing and fastest diversifying local economy in the country before COVID. It's getting back to that now. We need to make sure that that goes in the right direction. What the council needs to do and the Mayor needs to do to assist with that is to provide the right environment, the right natural environment, the right infrastructure, the right cultural environment to attract businesses here that will provide a sustainable future. We don't need an economic development agency. It will cost us between $3.5 and $5 million a year. It will be the easiest job in the country. Let's not do that.
Well, it wouldn't be a party without you, Glyn, so why not?
So the role of the Mayor is to actually lead the strategic direction on where we want to go. So for me, there's 4 pillars. We need to start building on the talent we have. So that's actually looking at the education system post-high school, actually retaining the kids we have and build the talent that is already here. Number 2 is actually looking at both the infrastructure, soft and hard. We all need power security, but we also got to have those cultural and art spaces so the talent that is here wants to stay here. 3rd, we've got to have housing. We need housing for this talent to stay here. And 4th, we must measure our results. We must know what good looks like. And at this point, we still don't have the required data to know where we can go from here to here on our diversification.
There we are, the audience. Welcome back.
You should take that comedy on tour, Richie. Nita, how would council's approach differ to economic development under your leadership?
So tourism has been vilified, but let me tell you, it's not tourism that is the issue, it's poor governance and a poor infrastructure. So as the Mayor, I think it's important to focus on governance. It's important to engage with the community and our businesses. I agree with some of what John and Glenn have said, which is let's invest in education, sports, build those community facilities. You will see economic diversification when you have those kind of infrastructure in place that we can boast of. I mean, people will invest in a place that has those kind of amenities, those community feels. The people, like our kids are actually leaving our town because there's not enough for them to do. So get them those opportunities, get them those awards, those scholarships that want them to invest in their talent in our region.
Thank you, Nita. Daniel, I'll throw this one to you as well. How would council's approach differ to economic development under your leadership?
It would be nice if Queenstown could offer more than a nice photo opportunity to tourists. But it has a pristine environment, diversifying without polluting the environment. There's some really interesting things going on with the building science and sustainability that are not happening in other districts in the country. So I'd explore that heavily.
Thank you. And John, can I throw that to you as well, please?
Covered already. Yeah, already done.
Did you?
Economic development?
Don't give them 2 bites, please.
Righto, it's okay, we can move right along.
I've been running over time a little bit, and it's not just to hear your sound.
Okay, well, I reckon I'm going to fire this one back at Daniel. I'm looking forward to your response on this one, buddy. Now, how would you support the growth and development of our town centre to make it attractive to businesses, locals and visitors alike? Town centre.
A parade. I'll put on a parade, a big parade.
I think they had one a couple of weeks ago, didn't they? It's good.
Another one, we could have another one. Free drinks, yeah, free drinks.
Scoopy will be there with bells on.
Okay, well, Glenn, what's your thoughts on that one? How would you support the growth and development of our town centre to make it more attractive to businesses, locals and visitors alike?
So the one thing, when I look back on my council time, is the one thing that as a councillor and as a group of councillors, I think we got wrong was the table and chairs policy. I think we charged hospo too much to actually invigorate and get in amongst the laneways and in amongst the areas where us as locals would like to go down to. So that passive observation is lost. So the safe, secure streets that we actually need in both CBDs in Wanaka and in Queenstown. So really we need to start looking at actually improving the security and the safety of the CBD and then actually making it easier to get to the CBD. So or for the water ferries from Calvin Heights and over into Frankton. So those are just the sort of the practical things that we can actually make the CBD more attractive to locals, visitors, and anyone who really wants to come spend your money.
Okay, this old chestnut, I think you've been asked this about 15 times now, so you should have the answer off pat. What barriers do you believe need to be overcome to fully diversify the Queenstown Lakes economy? Olivia.
Well, I know the barriers because I'm working with it every single day. So here are a couple of barriers that are stopping amazing companies moving here. First of all, housing, but we've already talked about that. Second is the hospital. The hospital is not fit for purpose. We have amazing people working there, but at the moment, animals can get better healthcare in Queenstown than humans can. So we need to improve that. So the hospital is a big one. The third one is tertiary. So we need to have other tertiary providers here. I think it's a real shame that 90% of high school kids have to leave the region in order to get further education. And so that's basically what is stopping. The other hurdles, I've had conversations with amazing businesses. I spoke to someone who wants to set up the Meta Facebook office here, and we talked about the hurdles. So I'm having these conversations all day, every day. I'm also working with ministers to try and overcome these hurdles. I've been talking about immigration settings. I've met with the Minister of Immigration. I've met with the Minister of MB. Thank you.
John, can I ask you that question as well, please?
One of the major issues that we have for new businesses coming here is the transaction cost of working with QLDC to try and get things done. We can fix a lot of that. We need to invest more in our people in the council so that we have the right people being supported to provide services efficiently. We can lean more on some of our neighbouring local authorities, as is happening now to some extent, but to pick up some of that slack. As I said, it's a lot easier to get things done in Southland, partly because they're not as busy as here, but we need to do more here as well. So council needs to get out of the way a little more, perhaps, than it currently is. But we need to provide the vision to be able to provide, and the messaging and all of our planning and everything we talk about, encourage the right investment, social investment and commercial investment into our communities. I've worked in the university sector now on and off for about 30 years, and I've got some good players, and I've really enjoyed talking with people like Charlie Phillips recently. There's a lot of innovation happening. We need to encourage it more, and we need to do it in the right places and make use of some of the buildings that are not being used efficiently now. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Glenn, this one is just for you.
Uh-oh.
Take a deep breath, do some lunges. Glenn, you ready?
Yay.
In your opinion, and as the only one with actual elected member experience, there are a lot of claims being made by our mayoral candidates. Which ones can actually be enacted as mayor and which are clickbait or for vote gathering only?
Oh, that came from you, the general public.
Gee, that's an open door. Shall I take it?
My son, run through it.
No, in all serious, it is very hard because you're only one vote. So you actually have to build a team around you and actually build collaboration within your council. So a lot that has been said obviously cannot happen unless you have the council behind you. And that is the main thing. As a mayor, you have to be collaborative, you have to build teams, and you actually have to bring the best out of your councillors.
Olivia, do you think you would work well, if you were mayor, do you think you would work well with the current council?
Yes, I do. I talk to a lot of the current councillors about their ideas, and I don't just talk to the current councillors. I've spoken to mayors across the country about how they get the best out of their teams. So I work with entrepreneurs at Startup Queenstown Lakes, my previous role, and we talk about how to get the best out of your team all the time. So it's about working to your strengths, and we always get entrepreneurs to identify their strengths. So that's how you build a great team, is you identify the strengths and leverage them. Everybody has a strength, so work into them is key. Thank you.
Okay, the community, another hot topic. Tracey? Now, our relative geographic isolation and population diversity creates its own challenges in developing a sense of community. This sense of belonging underpins how well a place performs in both good times and bad. 1 minute team, I'm going to start with you, Nita. As mayor, how would you contribute to building a sense of community within and across the district?
So I've been involved with a lot of grassroots level community and school work. So I can see actually some of our school staff are around here. What I would like to see in terms of community is that engagement. You know, as council, we need to start engaging with our schools, with our community facilities, talk to, you know, associations like the Basket of Blessings who do absolutely amazing work, give them that kind of encouragement. Going back again to the Community Housing Trust as well, their only skin in the game is to provide affordable housing. So I would like for them to start backing these kind of associations and foundations so that we get the best for our community.
Very good. Well, the community is a big thing, isn't it? So, Glenn, I will fire this one to you. Same again. As mayor, how would you contribute to building a sense of community within and across the district?
So, as a councillor, I was a signatory to setting up welcoming communities within council. So, as a mayor, I would be promoting that very strongly. So, if anyone who doesn't know about this, this is a wonderful activity that this council's done, bringing all of the different immigrant communities together. We actually held it in this room. I was sitting over there, and we listened to the aspirations of the different diaspora that we have in this community. If you didn't realise, we have 42 different nationalities at Wakatipu High School. It's already here, and we need to build on it because they are the engine room of this community. And the next one that I'll definitely promote is building this Wakatipu hub out here behind the Crown so it becomes a focus point of new migrants plus existing residents to get to know each other and also offer social services such as Plunket, mental health services, drug addiction, all those.
Okay, Olivia, I'll throw this one to you to start with. On reflection, how well prepared were we as a community to deal with the pandemic? What changes would you advocate for and lead to ensure we're stronger in the future in face of challenges, whether they be natural disasters or other economic or social threat?
So I know how ill-prepared we were in terms of economic development. We'd seen the worst case scenario of what happens when you put all your eggs in one basket. My organisation, being part of the economic development team, we were the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff when things went bad. So I am determined that we do not go back there. So diversification is a form of insurance and making our economy resilient in the future. We're also very vulnerable with energy. So I've been looped in on a project with the Murihiku Regeneration Project led by the Ngāi Tahu Roananga. and that is to get a second power line through Kingston from Invercargill, and so that way we have another power line, so renewable energy, and that is going to be key for our community being resilient in the future.
Thank you. And Daniel, can I ask the same of you, please? On reflection, how well prepared do you think we were for COVID? What would you advocate for and lead to ensure we're stronger in the future?
We were not prepared for COVID, and no one was prepared for COVID. And in hindsight, we've all learnt a lot about the process of dealing with the pandemic, and perhaps we've learnt how we could have done it differently, because I feel that we could have done it very differently. We could all have treated each other with a bit more respect on both sides of the court on that one, and I hope in the future we can learn from our mistakes.
So John, looking at our community, what do you think is missing that needs to be addressed in our community?
Well, it's difficult right from the start to say that we are a community, because in reality we're a collection of a whole range of different communities, and people in Wanaka certainly, and the Upper Clutha certainly feel that way. And it's been talked a bit about, there's been discussion online, we need to reinvent how the local authority does its thing, and we might want to look at what we even call ourselves. And it's one thing that Olivia and I agree on, thanks Matt, that the name of it is exclusive. Queenstown Lakes. People outside of Queenstown feel that they're not necessarily part of that. We need to take a more inclusive approach to at least how we do things, and probably what we call ourselves. That might be a useful thing to look at. But we need to make better connections between groups. There's already some good things happening, and I've been to a lot of those recently, particularly in the environmental sphere. But we need to do a lot more of that. There was the leadership labs that happened last year, really good initiative, but it didn't really get far. There was no call to action subsequently. We need to connect all the various parts of our community, focusing on issues so that they're real, and come up with actions that we can then follow so that we have more sustainable and connected communities in the future.
Thank you, John. And Nita, same to you. Looking at our community, what do you think is missing that needs to be addressed in our community?
So we've been on quite a few forums. We are different in our region here, but our issues are not different. However, our solutions will have to be different. And you realize that more as you walk in, that Wanaka doesn't want the same thing as Queenstown. And so as a council, you're going to have to actually cater to the needs of each region. So Havia has completely different sets of ideas about what they want. And having attended a forum in Havia, their visions for Havia are so different from what we see in Queenstown. What the council needs to take on board is the recommendations that come from shaping our future, because every one of these regions actually have a different set of needs that probably make our regions work better.
We're nearly through it, team. On to local governance, another of my favourite topics. There are many changes proposed and underway to the legislation and services delivered through the council and by government to the district. Glenn, we'll start this one with you. What do you consider to be the most pressing of the changes coming from government at present, and why is that?
It'd be Three Waters because it's first off the ramp. So with Three Waters, we've got three forms of legislation. One's already law. Te Mara Arawhai was created probably 3 months ago. The second one, the Water Entities Bill, that is at select committee hearing. So by the time any of us would-be mayors are actually mayor, it's probably going to be law. And then the third one's the economic regulator. So if you look at the Electricity Authority or the Commerce Commission, that's the sort of thing we're staring down the barrel of. After that, we've got the National Planning Review. Now, that is going to be huge. If they're looking at regionalising planning decisions, so taking the local decision out of QLDC and probably putting it in Dunedin at this point, that's going to be a massive challenge for Queenstown Lakes District, because we treat our outstanding landscapes completely different to what, say, Dunedin does or Roxburgh. And the last one is local government. And local government, again, we're probably looking at shrinking the number.
That was kind of a up and down.
Yeah, shrinking the number of actual district councils. So if you're looking at
It's like an owl.
segregating, it probably won't happen.
John, can I ask you that same question, the most pressing of the changes coming from government and why?
Yeah, Glenn's right. Three Waters reform is the first one it's with us at the moment. So, but I don't necessarily agree that we have to accept it as it is. I think we need to engage with government to come up with a model that actually more fit for purpose than the current model is. In particular, the size of the entities that are proposed. We need to have a scale I've proposed in a submission to the bill that it be for Otago and Southland so that every local authority has direct governance representation on it. I think we can do that. If not, we have to wear it. And also, National say that they will repeal it, they will change it absolutely, but it will still be Three Waters reform, it will just be of a different flavour. So we need to go with that. And there are some benefits from it because we've got the debt problem we're dealing with. I'd go directly to the local government reform. I think there are some real opportunities for us to work more closely with some of our neighbours, and we probably need to look to that in the future. I'm not concerned about the approach for regionalised approach to planning. A big part of my background is planning. Yes, it might be done on a regional map, but we all have our local part within it.
Well, that was a bit more violent, wasn't it?
I sounded Australian.
Glenn got a nice owl, and anyway. Okay, so Nita, I reckon you're going to.
I actually want to ask Olivia her thoughts on that as well. Do you mind? Yeah.
So there's a huge amount of reforms coming up, and this is why it's really important to have somebody that has legal training, a legal background. Council has to follow approximately 114 statutes currently, and I've seen them get it really, really wrong. I've had to correct the electoral officer on points of law because they keep getting things wrong. So this is something that's really missing in council. There's no one with proper legal understanding. So having a former lawyer who can read and understand statute, then that's going to be really, really key. So what I'm concerned about at the moment is the removal of local decision-making from communities. So this is where the Local Governments Act is going. I'm very, very concerned about Three Waters. It's anti-democratic. We need to be keeping decision-making in the communities, and I will fight for that.
Right, Nita, the lack of communication and transparency from the council seems to be something that is often talked about. Seems to be a hot topic here as well. So name 3 things you would change to address this.
So I don't like the idea that when you ask the council a question, they've taken a defensive position. It's almost like you have to go through the Official Information Act. So I was talking to a lady earlier during this session, and I said, as a business owner, I remember putting 3 applications in. They were the exact same application. 2 of them got accepted and 1 of them got declined. And so I emailed the council asking why that happened, and she said, can I give you a call? And I said, why is that? And she said, oh, I just wanted to discuss this with you. And I said, it's because different officers assess things differently. And that should not be the case. There's so much bureaucracy with the council, and I've worked at the council, and I think almost you don't have the onus of owning what you've done. What I would like for the council to do is be open with their communication, talk to the people, and give a straight answer. I finished on time.
Okay, Daniel, back at you, sir. Lack of communication and transparency from council. 3 things you do to address this.
I want to go back to the Three Waters. Where was the public consultation? There was no public consultation. And the laws that have been passed
Sorry, Daniel, mate, I just must have messed up the question there. So the communication, 3 things that you're to do to address the communication issue with council.
The communication issue with the public is more pressing. The lack of communication with the public is more pressing.
Yep, so the transparency, would there be anything you'd suggest that you could do to make that better for the public? For
transparency? Yeah.
What do you reckon that would be?
Take all the doors off the building so that people could just go in and should be open to everybody.
There's some cost-saving measures there. I like where you're going with that, buddy.
Right. Glyn, how would you ensure the district's voice is heard, recognised and responded to appropriately by the government?
So that's just pure advocacy. So that's just being strong-willed and actually talking to the ministers or whoever the officers at central government may be. So with the spatial plan, we have the Grow Well Whaiora group, which meets every quarterly. So that's 2 ministers of the Crown. I think we've got Kāinga Ora, we've got Waka Kotahi, NZTA. So every quarter, we're already meeting with with ministers of the Crown to actually start to develop the way we want to manage growth. That is actually happening now. So that is, as Mayor, that will actually be continued along with a member of the council.
Olivia?
This may seem like a novel idea, but I believe in asking the community what they want. And that's not happening at the moment. Look at Wanaka. The community there had to fight against their own council using their ratepayers' money to fight against them. I think that is appalling. What I've actually done is I've set up a website it's called govote.nz. I'm partnering with a group who are looking at improving local democracy, and we can do this through technology. We need to be engaging with younger generations because at the moment, you have to post in a vote. I don't even know where my closest letterbox is. It's just, we need to be doing things better. So I think using technology, we can actually get the real voice, and not just those of the vocal few, but actually truly engage in a meaningful way with our community, and that's exactly what I want to do.
John, what's your plan?
One of the big problems we have in QLDC at the moment is that the staff are spread out across at least 4 buildings in downtown Queenstown, and that's costing us approximately $400,000 a year just from staff moving from building to building, and that's just silly. We need to do that better. We need to get most of the council staff into a facility out here, probably one that's existing.
Sorry, John. Sorry to interrupt you. How is that going to ensure that the district's voice is heard by government?
Because then we can have a place where people can come to and we have a clear voice from the council, because they won't be trying to have a Tower of Babel amongst themselves. We need to better connect with the communities by having a good place. I agree with what Glyn said. We not only need the community hub here, why that hasn't happened in the last term of council is a bit of a mystery. We need to have the new council office adjacent to that, ideally, so we can have perhaps with outdoors, but a facility where people can come to with an open door so that they can feel valued and listened to. Sorry if I went off on a tangent.
I reckon that we're going to open it up to the floor.
Yes, please. Look, we'll be honest with you. Depends on if you want to get out of here on time or not.
Yeah. I reckon we've got 4 questions.
1 minute.
1 minute, 4 questions.
Answers.
First hand up wins.
John Glover.
Okay, here we go. 1 minute. And don't ask the same candidate all the same questions, thank you.
So we've heard a lot about the pressing issues of the day. What do the candidates feel that business could do to be part of the solution?
30 seconds each. Glyn, go.
So businesses have already been involved with the destination management planning. We had, I think, about 4 community sessions, and then we had one-on-ones with different businesses. So they actually had the IP about how we could improve businesses and improve the tourism experience for locals and residents. Thank you.
John?
Yeah, I'd like to get some workshops happening quickly to find out from the business sectors what they see as the real barriers are, and for them to suggest solutions that we can then put in place to help them to get through into the future, because we do have some real issues in the next few years, and the knowledge is in the community, it's in the business community. We need to work closely with them.
Thank you, John. Daniel, thoughts?
John stole that one off me.
Oh.
I would talk to the business community because they're in the position to know a lot more about what's happening than we are.
Nita?
So the businesses right now don't have the time to talk to you. We've got staffing issues, we've got housing issues, so let the council come on board and tell us what they are going to do for us.
Olivia?
I'm not going to ask the business community of anything. They've been so resilient and so tough in the last few years, which has been a nightmare. Council's here to serve you. It's your money that's coming to us, and at the moment, the community is not being put first. So I will help support business and put the community first.
Lucky number 2.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy, people. This is an
it. This is the
interaction.
moment.
What was your saying?
Well, my mum,
Here we go.
she says if you don't vote, you can't complain. And so on that basis, I feel like we should have had 100%
We've got one.
voter turnout around here.
Yeah, we've got a taker.
Thank you. I'd just like to ask, none of you are professional politicians, professional campaigners, you're members of our community. It's very confronting to put your hand up and put yourself up for election, so I wanted to ask you all, how are you doing?
Olivia, we'll start with you. How's your wellness?
It's been fantastic. The amount of support that I've had, it's so humbling. It was really scary putting my name out there. Terrifying. Scariest thing I've ever done. But the rewards, I mean, there's some downsides as well. You're very public. But the rewards and the support that I've had has just been absolutely incredible, and I would just do it again in a heartbeat.
Nice. Nita?
So the first 2 days, I was like, what did I get myself into? But the support has been incredible. You will always meet someone who probably is a little aggressive, so please hold back on that a little bit. Everyone's new here. But overwhelmingly, it's been great. Would I do it in a heartbeat? No, I'd give it a little more thought.
Daniel, how are you going up there?
I'd like to thank you for asking that. I really appreciate that. And it's because of people like yourself that it makes it worth it. Like, you do meet some incredible characters, and you also meet some incredibly difficult characters. But it is so rewarding. It is so rewarding. Yep.
John?
Yeah, lovely question, thank you. I've got a really good team around me, including my wife and our son who are here at the moment, and that helps, and they ask that kind of question too, so thank you. This is the most important election in our community's history, I think. There'll be more important elections in the future, but for now, this is the most important. Yeah, the one after that, okay. Yeah, quite rightly. But yeah, I've enjoyed meeting people. I enjoy this sort of stuff. I don't know if you get that feeling, but I love being in this sort of environment, talking to people like this. And I get the energy from you, so thank you.
Glenn, how are you doing up there, sir? You're looking very sharp in that outfit too. I like it.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick, for the question. It's actually been a lot of fun. I actually do enjoy doing this sort of stuff. Yes, you do that feeling of, why am I doing this? It's always at the back of your head, but I must admit, I am looking forward to some sleep and to be able to mow my lawn. So...
Well, I take my hat off to you all. It must be very difficult, especially in the supermarket when you're wandering down the alley. Doing
One more question.
One more, is that all?
Do you reckon
We've been given the one more.
My particular perspective is, how do we encourage people to speak out more from when they're not used to doing it? Because quite often there is a private opinion that's very rarely shared publicly, and where we trip up at almost every hurdle is that we just don't know about them. So how do we bring that out to the front and celebrate them?
So I'm not a politician, I don't sound like one, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Beat myself after one of the forums going, I didn't know what I was talking about. But the thing is, you have to be authentic. You have to speak from your heart. You will have people constantly come and say, but you're not loud enough, and all the other politicians are so loud, and you're not boisterous. Be yourself. People are going to believe you when you are yourself. I've got 2 councillors who sit here, and they've told me this constantly because I have gone to them for guidance. I have spoken to many of these ladies who have gone, I get comments like, you're very shy or you're very quiet. But this is who I am. I don't have to be aggressive to make my point. I have to speak from my heart because I come from a community perspective. I actually got told today, a community voice, that seems so general. Well, I am general. I'm a common person.
Nita, we've gone 45 seconds.
Nita!
Oh, no.
Well, I tell you, John's going to rattle through this one.
Yep. Well, one thing we need to do is open all of the workshops that council has to the public and the media, so that you can hear and see what we're doing. a lot more easily than has been the case in the past. And I want to engage, yes, people are busy, I get that, but we need to have more of a conversation so that people can feel open and that they can feel valued when they share their views that might be contrary to other parts of our communities. Because as I said earlier, we are a diverse community and we need to let those voices be heard so that we can respect one another.
Thank you. Olivia, what are your thoughts on this?
I really want to see more people getting involved in local government, right? And so I want to see more faces around the table. I want our council to actually be a true reflection of what our community is. At the moment, there's some pretty vicious things going around. I've seen at all of these candidates here today, some people are pretty ugly, and that just puts off good people running. So I just want to ask people to be kind, because it's actually really hard being up here, and I really admire all the councillors and what you do. So it's, it's just, I got told something, someone said...
Time's up.
Oh, the quote got killed.
Sorry.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that.
I sort of wanted to hear it too. Sorry.
Take it away, big fella.
Come and ask me later.
It's just taking on someone else's opinion and views and accepting their views and opinions. You might not be able to change them, you might not agree with them, but at least take them on and listen. Like I can say now that these four, there's four now, the fifth one left. I don't agree with them all. I don't agree with them all the time, but I can just say that I actually appreciate being around them because it stimulates the old grey matter and actually makes your ideas better.
Well, I'd have to say we've done pretty well, haven't we? 8:30.
Almost right on time.
Almost time.
Can I answer that one?
Oh, no, we haven't. Yeah. You're next, big fella.
I'd like to see the candidates in a more relaxed setting because it's always really formal. It's a constant formal event. And I appreciate all the other candidates. I do admire them and they do all really care for the public. I have come to acknowledge that. Is that perhaps everyone could have a soccer game? You know, we could meet and I see someone...
Does it have to be soccer, Daniel? Could it be something,
anything
else? Okay,
but just some sort of more relaxed setting. Really good.
Volleyball downstairs. Let's go.
Badminton tomorrow.
That's quite a good note to finish on, isn't it?
Beautiful.
Yes, very much so. Well, it seems, ladies and gentlemen, that this election is going to be probably one of the more invested ones that we have seen for a very, very, very long time. There's some really good points raised by all these candidates up there. I take my hat off for them and thank you very, very much for being here, for opening yourselves up and giving us your honest opinions. So voting, what do we do? When's it happening?
Right, so here's the jam. You're about to get some bright orange envelopes and they should be arriving from Friday through, I think, until the 21st of September. If you don't get one of those, you can go into the council offices, Gorge Road, if you're here, obviously in Wanaka as well, and make a special vote. It's critically important that you get those back in the post, as Olivia said. You do have to pop them in the post.
What if I don't have a letterbox?
Do you have a post office box?
No, I do not.
Then just go to the council and lodge a special vote, Richie. Stop being difficult.
Perfect.
Goodness sake.
Thank you very much.
So you've got to get those back in the mail by I think it's the 4th of October. Voting does close at noon on October 8th. And I just really want you guys to try to be aware of the ward in which you are voting because it has changed. And it would appear that some of you don't know that. Historically, the Arrowtown ward was confined to just Arrowtown. That is no longer the case. So if you live in Arthur's Point, if you live in Shotover Country, if you're in Lake Hayes Estate, if you're in Gibbston, Dalefield, someone will tell me if I've missed any. Have I missed any? I think that's about everything that side. You're now in the Arrowtown Kawerau ward. So you have to vote for people in that ward to represent you around the council table, and this year there'll be 3 of those people. So make sure that you know who you're voting for, and very helpfully, I understand that there will be a Meet the Arrowtown Kawerau Ward Candidates event in Arthur's Point within the next week or so. So just keep an eye out on Facebook. No, we're having one in Arthur's Point as well. Yeah. At this point, we've only just worked it out tonight. Details are still to be confirmed, but we'll keep you posted. So thank you again, everybody, for being here this evening, for taking that time out of your busy, busy schedules. Again, to the candidates, thank you. It is no mean feat to put your hand up to lead our district through the next 3 years, and I wish you all the very, very best. Obviously, to the person who's successful, I am available to make noises if someone goes over time in public forum. Oh no.
Yeah, and look, a big thanks to all our candidates, Chamber of Commerce, Business and Hospitality in New Zealand. How about a round of applause for our... Well, that wraps up our evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for, as Tracey said, spending some time out of your day coming. So we're all looking forward to seeing who our lucky new mayor will be.
Vote.
Vote.